we are joined by a man who's known for his patience at the plate, but was just very patient with some technical difficulties. Former three-time All-Star Jason Kendall. How you doing, dude?
Good, guys. Yeah, the technical difficulty stuff. Trevor, you're a pretty good baseball player, but you're also a pretty good computer guy. You walked me through it.
Oh,
Yeah, that was wild. We appreciate you. How's quarantine going for you? We see
now
the stash.
I can't hear Trevor now.
Trev probably just still has himself muted. That's a his thing.
Yeah, I'm back.
okay, all right.
No, all is good, and I hope you guys are out there being safe. And I dig the show, and it's just one of those things. It's a crazy, crazy time, and there's so much unpredictability, or whatever you want to call it. I know that's a word that is out there. So, just people just go out, stay safe, stay inside.
Yeah, we talk all the time about is baseball coming back? What's it going to look like when it comes back? But in reality, nobody knows anything. And it doesn't matter if Rob Manfred wants to play baseball. It doesn't matter if the owners want to play, the players want to play. It's just, is the government going to let anything happen? So there's a new proposal out today about doing the Grapefruit and the Cactus League, and everyone's freaking out about that now. But like I said, nothing's going to happen until we get this thing figured out and the government says, okay. So all these predictions are just that. They're just predictions.
Without a doubt. And, I had this conversation the other day that, listen, your veteran players, the guys that have been there, they're going to be, they know what to do to get ready. It's going to be, and you know what? I don't know, Trevor, did you play in the Arizona Fall League?
I did.
Okay, I mean, it's not really that much fun. I was fortunate enough to play when the Scottsdale Scorpions had Michael Jordan. So at least once a week, I knew that there was going to be a crowd because everybody wanted to see Michael Jordan. But other than that, there's zero atmosphere. And it's amazing what the fans actually bring and the adrenaline that it brings you. And I think the big league, if they can get started by July 1st, whether it be with fans or without fans, I think that they'll be all right. I mean, you're still looking at a maybe 70-game schedule. If it gets in that little area where there's might be 40 games, the only thing that I personally can think of is that would be neat is it doesn't matter if the Yankees are supposed to win or the Dodgers, et cetera, et cetera. You might have, if the Florida Marlins or, a low market team gets hot at the right time and can go out and put up some numbers, that would be interesting to me maybe. But I think more than anything, I'm worried about the minor leagues. Is there going to be a minor league system? What about the players around the bubble? What about the, and then you can even take this to the trickle down effect to where, what about the high school seniors? Not only obviously the spring sports, but you're looking at their graduations and everything else. And I don't know the whole details of the Division I thing, but I know that they're giving all spring sports, they're allowing them to, I guess it'd be the seniors, to come back for one more hurrah, which I truly believe they should. But now it's going to eliminate your mediocre players. I mean, the ones that are in high school that might have half a scholarship somewhere, wherever it may be, whether it be junior colleges or D1s, D2s. So I'm more worried about those guys, and I say the minor leagues more than anything because these are the next generation stars. And
I agree.
The rookies that might possibly make the big league ball clubs right now, hopefully the training staff, which I'm sure they will, and the weight and conditioning coaches will follow up and make sure that they're doing their routine. But, when you're 21, 20 years old and this game's getting younger, you think you're Superman. So when you get to the big leagues, and you guys can ask Trevor, it's a different ball game. And so I'm more worried about the minor leagues because if, say, there is a 40-season game, and I'm just totally throwing this out there, I would assume that there would be no minor league season.
Yeah. Right now, I think what they have suggested right now is having like a pool of players, like a 40 to 50 deep per team pool of players, and they would just keep the extra guys, whatever the roster ends up being. If it's 30 guys, if it's 35 guys, the rest of the players would kind of just hang back and be ready to go. But as of right now, there is no minor league season plan. They don't know what they're going to do. And I agree with you. This whole thing has such a ripple effect on the entire industry. And
1000%.
it's going to be interesting to see how we move forward. We're going to move forward. The game doesn't wait for anybody. You know
funny,
that.
But at least the union and the Players Association are talking, because that's not always the case.
Yeah.
So at least they're communicating, and that might sound funny, but it's actually really serious. At least they're communicating on, trying to find a plan.
Yeah, we kind of talked all about if, the draft does go down to only 5 rounds or 10 rounds, then those high school players who weren't top 5-round picks but are pretty set on just playing ball and not going to college and didn't even apply, like that's really scared for them. JUCOs will probably be bringing in a lot of guys and getting a lot more action, but the ripple effect there is crazy to think about, and no one's really even talking about that. But a lot of these high school baseball players, they're in a weird state of limbo right now.
It's unbelievable. I mean, even if somebody drafts you in the 28th round, you're like, here, give me my plane ticket and a can of Copenhagen, and I'm gone.
Yeah,
and let me see what I can do. It really is now. But if it's going to be 5, I heard more towards 5, but at 10, whatever it is, I said you're going to weed a lot of players out, and I guess if you have the mindset to where, all right, nobody's going to outwork me, nobody's going to if you have that attitude to keep working, I mean, maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. I just know that this game it's a special game, and everybody wants to play it. And, if you're fortunate enough, this is one thing. Everybody thinks that their kid is, or they're going to get to the big leagues. It doesn't happen. You're not going to be the next Serena Williams, Derek Jeter, it's not going to happen. I mean, if they're fortunate enough to get, play high school ball, fortunate enough to go and have a chance to play at college, and then if something happens, get drafted, which now it might, those 28th, 29th rounders might not get drafted. I just hope that there's a plan beyond this year, which it's uncharted waters. You just don't know. Yeah. But I think more than anything, I worry about the kids that are in the minor leagues right now.
Well, I think there's still time for me to become the next Serena Williams, so I will check you on that. And B, I know Trevor's eyes lit up when we start talking about this season getting a little weird and, maybe 35-man rosters. Trevor he raised that eyebrow, and he's like, I might still have it. If maybe your local Padres come up and they're like, hey, we need a guy to get on base who has a really nice mustache for 40 games. Do you still got that?
Well, I'm going to tell you what. First of all, with your giddy up right now, without a doubt, you're on the right track to go and do the Serena Williams if you can play tennis. But yeah, no, this is my quarantine mustache. But okay. I don't know if it's cute.
This is what I said about the 50-man rosters. I said there's no doubt in my mind because Jace, I'm only a year removed from playing. There's no doubt in my mind I'm still a top 1,500 player in the world. That's 50 guys a team. I feel like I could still go out there and be a top 50 guy. But once you start going down to the 40 and it's 1,200, I kind of went that route last year. I didn't get put on any damn 40-man. So I know I'm kind of in between that 1,200 and 1,500 range. So if I'm going to go, now's the time, because another 6, I'm going to be out of that 1,500 range. There's no doubt in my mind.
If they're going to do that, I'd go to the cages right now, or I'd have your wife throw you some BP, soft toss, or hit off a tee, because there's something about a veteran presence. And I'm being serious. If you're actually really being serious about this, there's something about a veteran presence as a catcher, as a pitcher, whatever. I mean, being out of a year, that's not that big of a deal. You'll catch up in 2 seconds because your body's trained to do that. Right. Give one more shot. You might, if they have a 30, because they're going to have to expand the rosters.
Yeah.
They have to. So, hey, plus it's nice out there. Go out to a park and get some wiffle balls or whatever.
I am like 100% joking about it.
No,
just to be clear.
You'll get back.
I put something in the back of your head though, because you're like, oh, hey, honey, and go make a quick $500,000 next 2 months. You'd be like, get out of here.
I'm having too much fun now. But here's the thing: we brought you on because we want to talk about you, the game. We don't know anything about the game. We want to talk about Jason Kendall, your career, and I knew a lot about you because for some reason when I was very impressionable, 11, 12, 13 years old. I feel like that's when kids really kind of get into baseball and big leaguers and know who guys are. At least that was my experience. My guys were you, Charles Johnson, and Mike Piazza. I had something for catchers. I don't understand what it was. And you guys were all kind of in those 96, 97 seasons. You guys were all going off. And I'm looking at your numbers, and you put up some crazy stats, man.
You know what? I had fun. I had
Do you
fun
know all
playing.
your stats? Because I got them up right here.
I don't. No, I don't. I don't really look at them. But I mean, I know that I had some hits, and I was a different type of catcher. I wasn't. I didn't hit for power, which is crazy because I can hit a golf ball a mile, but I couldn't hit a ball over the fence.
But you did hit for power. So you got
You know what?
2,200 career hits. That's ridiculous. And then when you go back and start looking at this, I mean, your OPS plus is really nice. And I know like back in 96, 97, 98, you guys probably weren't looking at OPS plus. It probably wasn't even around. But, the more and more these stats come out, they kind of are able to take away from the counting stats or the traditional stats. You put up some excellent numbers. I mean, that's why you have a 42 career WAR.
Do you look
Or
at those
15,
numbers,
yeah,
Jason? All? Do you even?
I don't know WAR. I don't know any of this stuff. I don't know analytics.
It's
But
setting you in a positive light. Let me tell you that much.
Well, I guess that's a good thing. But I'll never forget it. I had to change my swing probably about 2000. Jimmy Anderson was pitching. It was in April, and he threw a sinker down and away. Kind of one of those guys that and it cut and just snapped my thumb. I had to change my swing after that. I ended up playing the season. I lost all my gap to gap power, and I became kind of a punch and Judy hitter, hitting to the situation. Run around first, hit the hole, hit and run guy. And I had no problem with that because I was the one who. I mean, they wanted me to have surgery right then and there. I didn't. Everybody thought it was my ankle that did that. The ankle's fine. Ankle was probably stronger than the other one. It was literally my thumb. It was mashed potatoes at the end of the season, but
which hand was that?
My left hand.
Was it from catching or was it from hitting?
Down and away, and the ball cut and just and I'll never forget that guy's name, but Jimmy Anderson. But obviously it wasn't his fault. I just didn't know where the ball was going.
Yeah.
So I mean, but that was where I really had to change my swing, and I had to basically let go of every time I made contact, let go of the bat with my hand instead of having both hands, falling through. So. I mean, you know what? And what I tell these guys now, and Trevor, I was fortunate enough to be behind the scenes with the Royals from basically your great years, 2010 through 17 or 16, and I would always, and it was it was so good for me. When I played, I knew who the owners were and who the GMs, but I didn't communicate with them. I was so locked in on what I had to do that day to help the team win. And whether it be something, bunting, catching, calling a game, getting a guy over on second base. But I got to see the front office side. And I was on the field before games, going over scouting reports. And I will say this, in 2000, when did you have 20 something bombs? Was it 15 or 16?
I had 22 and 15.
Okay. So it was 2015.
Can confirm.
Thank you.
It was somewhere around there, and they were all, it wasn't Mauer. It wasn't. And so I would go, no, you watch him. This is who doesn't beat you, because every catcher should have a game plan going back to. There's one guy, maybe two, that don't let him beat you. Well, the Royals hadn't been to in the playoffs since '85, and I mean, and obviously being in the Central, we played you guys quite often. That was when I started noticing. I'm like, hey, screw Mauer, screw everybody else. Do not let this guy beat you, because he's the one back there. So I got to know a lot about you from behind the scenes. But I guess that all being said, it was so good for me to do that, because I didn't know what they did upstairs. And there's so much analytics. There's so much. And I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I mean, I kind of tell it like it is. And, general manager would be like, hey, what do you think? Yes. Jason, what do you think? No, I think he stinks. Get him out of here. I mean, I was pretty straightforward. I think I always have been. But it was neat for me to do that, to see the way it operates up there, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and these guys they're right now, your GMs, your assistant GMs, they're working their tails off right now trying to not only figure out when they're going to play, and I'm talking about scouts and everything. They're right now, they're busting their butts trying to figure out, okay, well, what kind of roster are we going to have? Is it going to be the 30, 32, 29? Who can? So it was neat for me to do that, because now I got the whole full baseball part of it. And but I just remember you those years, because we played you guys 19 times or whatever it was.
We played a lot. And
it
was the Royals, man. They went from playing us, and we were the low man on the totem pole in the AL Central at that time. Both teams were. Then all of a sudden, man, they got Hosmer came up, and he started to develop a little bit. Moose and Sal and Gordon, and then the bullpen came, and that changed everything for you guys. I totally remember that 14-15. It was like, that was when bullpen started, and I'll say this word, it became weaponized.
Without a doubt.
And it was like, if you didn't have a lead going into the 5th or 6th inning against the Royals in that time, you were going to lose, because you weren't going to score.
Has to go 5 innings.
Yeah, you weren't going to score against Kelvin.
Luke Cote would throw 98.
Yes, so that was an interesting time, and that's pretty cool. I knew you were back there, but then to think now, you worked with Sal, who was one of my favorite catchers to watch. You worked with Butera, who we just had on the show last week, and now I can kind of see your presence with those guys, and I could see how you influenced them for sure.
You know what? It was a fun time to watch. It wouldn't. I mean, I got into the American League championship ring, and I have the World Series ring. Never got one as a player. As far as I made it was to the ALCS in 2006 with the Oakland A's. But it's not the same as a player. But just watching these guys gel in that 2015, 2016 year was neat to see, because they did what they were capable of doing. And I think if you look back, with the exception of the Astros, over the World Series teams, they do what they're capable of doing. They get guys over. It makes me sick to my stomach with it's a 1-1 tie in the 8th inning, say, and you get a leadoff guy, and you got your right-handed hitter hooking balls into left field. Play the game. It makes me sick to my stomach. But you have to learn to change with the generations, and I completely understand that. But if you look back at the team, once again, excluding the Houston Astros, all the teams have done those things. They've all done the little things. And obviously, when you get to the bullpen, they got that too.
When you go to the front office with the Royals and you see the game from the different side of things and all that, it seems like you embraced a lot of it and found a lot of it interesting. Was there anything you flat out rejected that they were looking at, like an analytic or a way of thinking that the front office had, and you were like, no, that doesn't matter at all?
That's a great question. And yeah, I did. And there's certain things that, in my mind, there's great things about analytics. There's great things about your old school. You need to learn everything the analytics are doing right now is just the way other people, okay, my spin rate. Oh, yeah. How many times did the curveball spin? Okay, well, if he hung it, it's going to get hit. I don't care how many times it's spun. If it's down in the zone, you're going to swing and miss.
It's so
Bottom
true.
line. It doesn't matter about what the spin rate is. Now, I use the analytics like, players are creatures of habit. And, whether they know it or they don't know it, but I don't know, say whoever steals 50 bases a year, they usually have 75% of their bags on a certain count, say 1-1. So those are times where you might, as a catcher, slide step. You might do whatever. So I love obviously you have your first pitch swingers, and I can sit here and talk this all day, but it's just the lingo. It really is just the lingo. They call spin rate. Well, no, that was a good curveball. I don't care how many times it was spun. If it's hung to a big league hitter, it's going to go a long, long way. And I'll never forget, somebody goes, oh, this guy had a good spin rate. This is maybe 4 years ago. And I'm like, okay, get your spin rate out of here. There's one of the guys upstairs or up top, and I go, oh my God, look at the guy that's on the bottom of the list. His fastball didn't have a good spin rate. Didn't he win the Cy Young last year? His name's Clayton Kershaw. So I mean, there's certain things that can but it's the lingo is the same. So I think some of the analytics are great. I
Yeah.
truly do. And I think some of the old school stuff. But now you learned it. It's just the lingo. It really
we
is.
had a whole show on that, and I was trying to explain, like, because when people watch baseball now, a lot of times the guys in the booth, they're old school guys. They talk about, how the game was when they played, and they get really frustrated with these new terms, these new analytical terms. And what I keep saying to people, and we had a whole show on this, I'm like, these terms, that's all they are. There's just a different word for what you already know.
It's so true.
So yeah, a high spin rate guy on a 4-seam fastball, high spin rate. All that meant to me before this term came out was that his ball had life on it and it kind of rose. The guys lived at the top of the zone. Verlander has been doing that forever. So when you faced him, you said, this guy's got late life, up in the zone, lay off. It's going to continue to go. It's hard to get on top of that ball. Stuff like that. It's really easy if you just explain
Trevor,
it like that.
answer me this question. When you dug in and you got your toe, you're ready. You thinking about a guy's spin rate? Or you think you better not be, because you have zero chance. No,
I agree.
What Trevor said is all that stuff he did to prepare before the game. But when you get in the box, you're straight and see the white thing to hit it. Yeah, I mean, obviously
Exactly.
you have, tendencies, who you're facing, and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know. I will say one thing about the analytics thing that I don't like. I don't care if you played Little League, high school, college, whatever. At least you played. One thing that I will say this about a player is somebody who has never played a game. It's people like the resumes, and when I say resumes, and I'm talking about like, yeah, did you play? At least you played ball. And so some of these guys that come in who have never even touched a baseball, couldn't throw it, 10 yards, they're ending up running the show, which that's the one thing that bothers me about all that stuff. And that's just the way the game is now. And you have to change with those times, I guess. But the players know that stuff without a doubt.
They do. I think that players, when I think of guys like that, like you're saying, guys that are very, very analytically driven, we see that in the front offices everywhere now. It's basically like, get me an Ivy League grad in here who's good with numbers, and let's put him in. And I think what they do, because they don't have the feel for the game necessarily, I think that what they can bring is those numbers that jump out. They can find numbers that may jump out that you can use. So that's what I would always look for when I was prepping was, is there a number, is there a count that jumps out where this guy throws X pitch 70% of the time? Or is there a count that I'm struggling in? One of the things that I learned with the Phillies, they brought up, they're like, hey, you're too passive in these hitters counts. You need to be more aggressive in the hitters counts, because that is where you're going to get your slugging up. That's where you're going to have your extra base hits. So that was something I never really even thought of. But, some, we'll call them a nerd. Some numbers nerd.
Yeah,
brought it to me, and I
certain
loved
organizations.
it. Yeah. So
and that's good. And you're a power hitter, and that was. But I mean, also, and that's great advice. But also, I mean, you're going to swing regardless. And obviously, the scoreboard dictates everything. If you're losing 8-0 and you got a 3-0 count, you're not going to swing. Just little. But that's where some of it get, and then they try to throw it in your head with some of the younger kids. And like I said, you're up there thinking like, okay, well, Bob over there told me not to, and that's where you mess these kids up. And that's something awesome that Philly brought to you that you could take on and pass on to whoever.
Yeah. You have to be able to weed through the numbers. That's what I kind of tell everybody.
Absolutely.
Don't be overwhelmed by the numbers. Find something that works for you, and that's it. You don't have to, like, when they send you over a full package, just let it go.
A mediator between your old school guys and your analytic guys. Combine the two, because they're both good. They really are. And there won't be any of this crap that goes on anymore.
That's
we
seems like they're trying to do with the new managers, by bringing in these young managers like Booney and Ross and Tingler and Padres. It seems like that's who they're searching for as a manager now, is now that intermediate between the stats and the player, and trying to understand like, hey, this is why you're sitting today, or this is what we think and it seems like that's what they're looking for in new managers. It's totally different than, back in the 70s when managers were putting hit and runs on every single inning and calling for bunts, like every single elder at bat. There's a lot less like field managing going on. It seems like, at least now.
Oh, without a doubt. And everybody's scared of up top. And nothing, not getting Boone's done an unbelievable job, and I'm sure Ross will too. So I don't want to, but I mean, some of these guys, and I'm not saying either or are, they're yes guys. And I know for a fact, certain, I know for a fact that certain managers, when they went into interview, were like, hey, do you care if the lineup is written and on your desk before before you get into the ballpark? And certain guys say yes. I'm going to tell you what, if you're going to have me as a manager, I'm doing it my way. And listen, I know how you have to know how to treat people, bottom line. And this goes back to what your parents told you. You treat people the way you want to be treated. And you treat them with respect. It truly, truly goes back to that. And it's a different era. I get it. Let them have fun. Go ahead. But, as long as you get your work in and you do what you're supposed to do, go out and do it. I would love it. And, I've had a couple opportunities, and I'm very fortunate to play in an era where, I watched my father go through, I think he went through a lockout and 2 strikes, played in the big leagues as well. And, he came home and had to work UPS. He came home and had to work construction. So I really never saw him. But those guys fought to where we were fortunate enough to make the money that we made. And I always told myself that if I get out, and I'm not going to miss my kids' years of high school, little, whatever it may be, soccer, and because my old man wasn't there for all that stuff. And Trevor and I were fortunate enough to make it, a good enough living to where we can sit at home and hang out, and it's all great. But so that's what I'm doing right now. But I mean, I tell you what, if I were to manage, I would completely go outside the box. Run around first and second, no outs. You got the guy that can handle the bat. Hey, put a hit and run on. Yeah, what do you got to do? You got to hit a ground ball at third base. He's covering.
I honestly would love to see that. I would love to look it up, like how many hit and runs were put on last year without the pitcher. Like pitcher gone, how many hit and runs were actually put on last year in the big leagues? I bet it's less than 15.
Without a doubt. All the managers do right now is look like this, and they know the camera's on them. Where am I? That's all they do. I mean, I can't say all of them. I mean, because you have to get 25 grown men with different personalities to go out and play. So I can't say that. I mean, that's wrong for me to say that. But there are definitely certain yes guys out there. But and I think that, once again, with the exception of the Astros, go back to the last 10 World Series, the manager was able to get their players to do what they're capable of doing. And they did put a lot more hit and runs. I mean, I guarantee there's more hit and runs put on in the playoffs last year than there were the whole season, just like Trevor just said.
Yeah. That is something that that's funny to think about, because baseball comes back. Baseball, like real old school baseball, comes back in the playoffs because runs are at a premium. If you score one, the momentum shifts, and all of a sudden it totally changes the game. But I will say this, I don't think there's one manager in the big leagues right now that writes his own lineup. Not one.
Well,
Francona.
Yeah, Terry.
You think Terry? You think he does?
I think Tito's like the last one.
Maybe. Even Bob Melvin in Oakland doesn't write his own lineup. So.
And that's one thing about a player, which is completely awful, is when you are going to give certain guys days off, and when you are going to, and hopefully this happens. I mean, like one of your utility players, hey, you know what, you're going to go out and face Verlander. We're going to give so-and-so. You better let them know the night before so they can mentally get prepared. And if everybody's writing a lineup out, which I kind of agree with you, I know for a fact that after games, the GM manager come down, they have conversations, and now I'm usually out of there by then, or when I was still with so I don't know what else was talked about, but you better let everybody know, whether you're having a day off or your utility guys know if they're playing. That's something that I hope goes on.
Yeah. And something that we love is that the game does have a way of leveling itself out naturally. And I think some of the stuff you're talking about is going to come. I think I'm like you. I get infuriated. There's a light hitting guy up, and they've got one of those new righty shifts on him, and it's like, dude, if you just slap it through the hole, you're gonna hit 8 home runs this year. Like, but you could have a base hit and keep it going. But that's for another thing. And I think what Trevor said, we got to keep this on you, dude. And I want to talk about the other side. Because, yeah, I mean, you've got some awesome OBP stuff, and the hits and everything is crazy. You were also a stud defensive catcher. What have you watched kind of the evolution of the catching game? And I mean, the answer is yes, because you were doing special assignments for the Royals and things like that. But what have you seen change in the catching game, and what do you like about it? What do you hate about it, or is it kind of the same bullshit? Like, I mean, pitch framing's always been around. We just have new metrics for it now.
I hate the word pitch framing. Just catch the ball where it's pitched. But so if you look at, and there's so many different things that go into it. So say Joe West, who's been around for 100 years, is behind the plate, and you're going to pull this where I don't want to frame. He's not going to give it to you. Now the younger guys that I don't know, they might, because they know that's it's the new generation. So you better know your personnel, who's going to be behind the plate, who's not, et cetera, what you can. But for kids, like when I teach the kids how to catch, I just catch the ball. Pretend it's an egg. The softer the hands you have, the better. Soft, and soft. I can't stand that. But it also depends. Some umpires are, at least they're getting graded now, but they've also taken away a lot of just the pure baseball part of it. But I mean, they have to be accountable as well as the players. So, but I always look who's behind the plate. If you have a guy that's been in the big leagues for 5-6 years umpiring, he's not going to give this stuff. If you got like maybe a 1 or 2 year guy, he probably will. I'll guarantee right now, Joe West, I mean, I caught in front of him forever, is not going to give the guy that. So, I mean, but it's to each his own. The way I don't like the word pitch framing, because it means that. Did I ever do that? Maybe, kind of trying to call it to get a strike. But when you are going to teach somebody how to catch, just say soft hands, catch the ball. Don't go out and get it. Don't just wherever your arm is, just catch the ball. Catch the ball as soft as you can, because it's such an easier way to explain to, whether it be kids from college, high school, in the big leagues. Because trust me, a lot of these kids in the big leagues, everybody is scared of these kids, are scared of these guys in the big leagues, because they're making way more money than the. You have to have that coaching staff or at least somebody be like, no, I don't care who you are, what you make. You look like a jackass behind the plate. Just catch the ball and get off your damn knee and run around. You got guys on a knee with a runner on third base now. I mean, you can't have that if you want to be a perennial Gold Glover, or if you want to win.
I was going to ask you about
Val
that.
Perez and me butted heads every day, without a doubt.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. That's something I like to ask. So we've had a couple different catchers on, and we talk about the low strike and trying to get that low strike. And you've seen the guys get on their knee and then kind of show the target. But as the pitcher's, in his windup, they drop the glove to the ground, and then they try to come back up with it. Because that is like
no,
the
it's
thing.
awful.
Every single catcher is doing that right now.
Trevor, you would be surprised on how many pitchers actually rely on your target. It really is. It's unbelievable. So a lot of guys, I mean, they come get ready to throw, and then now their head's going like this. I mean, and now you got the umpire. Now, if I'm hitting and I'm moving my head, hitting's the hardest thing to do in all sports, and I'm moving my head, and I hope you guys can see this. What's the ball doing?
Yep.
The ball's doing that. So you can do it, just be your head. It's the same thing with umpires. If you're going down, up and down, up and down, their eyes are moving up and down, and you're not going to get the calls that those borderline pitches. You're just not going to get them. And as a pitcher, your head's supposed to stay still. So now you're going, it's just listen, you have to have pitchers. They're the most important part in the game, but some of them are very sensitive. There's a lot of people that are very sensitive, and you have to learn how to, who to kick in the butt, who not to. But there'll be pitchers that don't like this. This right here, up and down, up and down. Not only does it screw up the pitcher, because I'm not saying every one of them, but a lot of them. But it's the guy behind you who's calling him. He's not going to give you, if you're moving all over the place, he's not going to give you those borderline pitches.
Yeah, I mean, you were known as a guy that pitchers wanted to throw to. I mean, that's why you played so many damn games. When you retired, you caught the 5th most games in history. That's a lot of games. So, it's we talk about old school, we talk about new school. You embodied what a catcher was. I mean, a guy that was out there all the time, handled the pitching staff, guys wanted to throw to you. And now I think catchers are kind of getting away from that, and it's more about their personal framing stats rather than does a pitcher feel comfortable throwing to me. And I think, like you said, pitchers are the name of the game. If pitchers aren't comfortable, you're not going to win that game. So I've always said, like, you got to have a guy you feel comfortable with. And if a catcher's solely focused on stealing a strike for you and making sure his pitch framing statistics are better, I think it's going to end up going back completely the other way and getting rid of all that. And no one's going to worry about pitch framing. And it's like, we need our pitchers to feel comfortable. That's what we need.
Bottom line, I'll tell you a funny story about, and I can't think of the guy's name right now. He used to be the White Sox, not with the Braves now.
Flowers?
Help me out. Who?
Flowers?
Tyler Flowers?
Flowers. This is a front office story that just made me laugh. And so he had a pass ball, and they gave it a pass ball. Well, the ball hit off his glove in the air, and it was a pass ball. And he goes, well, you know what? He sends a letter to Major League Baseball and our guy, saying, like, that was not my pass ball. It was a wild pitch because he crossed me up. And I'm sitting, and so I'm not a big Flowers fan, but and then the next year he's the best framing catcher. He's the guy that goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and you get dizzy. But I'll never forget when he sent that letter in. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" So you are so right. That's because that one. It doesn't matter if you want a Gold Glove. First of all, the coaches vote on it. If they like you, they're going to vote. And half of them get the ballots right after BP. They're tired. They're all old. They want something to eat, and they're like, "Hey, Bat Boy, can you fill out my Gold Glove thing?" And it doesn't matter. And that's, honest to goodness, and the Bat Boy like, "Oh, here, put it," and then give it to the PR guy. And so, I mean, obviously there are certain Gold Glovers out there, but it doesn't matter if a pass ball. If you have 3 pass ball, 4 pass ball, 5 pass ball, you can have 20 pass balls. If you're hitting 300, you're going to get it for the most part. Yeah. And a lot of the other coaches will go, who won it last year? Just write down whoever won it last year. That's why you see a lot of these guys getting Gold Gloves over and over and over and over again, because these coaches getting off BP, they got to get dressed, ready, go have their meetings with the pitchers or whoever it may be. And so one pass ball is not going to, there's no reason to write a letter to the commissioner's office, as Flowers did, and say, you know what, he crossed me up. Well, first of all, if he crossed you up, it is your fault, because, I mean, even if you guys weren't on the same page, the ball hit your glove. I know. A lot of players are soft. I always knew that when I went out, even if I was banged up, and if I went out I knew I could do something. Even when I was awful my last 5 or 6 years, I knew that there was something that I could do to help win a game. And that's whether it be calling a game. And I knew I couldn't hit anymore. So I'm like, I better learn. I mean, I studied, I worked. There's 2 easy things. Like I just remember going back to Mauer. Okay, well, the great ones. Okay, say Joe Mauer had a 2-1 knock off of Zach Greinke 3 months ago, and it was a changeup. Well, 3 months later, he's in Kansas City, say, and he gets in a 2-1 count. What's he looking for? That's what separates the great ones. And I'm just using him as an example because this is actually what happened. And so I knew that, and I did my homework, and I had this. I couldn't tell you how to do my kids' homework, but I could tell you what I threw Todd Helton 20-something years ago in a 2-2 count. But the great ones, your 300 hitters, they remember. And I'll never forget, Mauer came back up and I busted him in, bats in the stands. And they're throwing helmets and I love that. That was what was cool about me for catching. But like I said, when I was awful, there was always something that I knew, and that's why I played. I loved it. And Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is such a short window, your playing career. I mean, I played, well, I say 16 because I got paid for the 16th, but 15 years, and it went by in 2 seconds. And that's what I tell
It
these
does
kids
seem
now.
that way. You played.
This go by
I mean, you
so
played
quick.
almost double what I played, and I feel the same way. I mean, I'm looking at your numbers now. You weren't horrible your last 5 or 6 years. I'm just going to tell you that right now. 2008, which was you were 2 years after that. You put a 2.9 WAR up.
You don't care about
Okay,
war,
dude,
Trev.
I went a year in Oakland without hitting a home run, and it was awful.
Let me see.
So did I.
And I was
2005.
hitting balls like off the top of the wall, and like, oh, someone just just get out of the park.
Hey,
Oh my goodness.
you talked about how you got beat up with your thumb got injured, and everyone knows catchers take beatings and all that shit. But you got beat up in the batter's box too. You had how many 5 seasons, 6 seasons with more than 20 hit by pitches. You led the league a year, 2 years back to back with 31 hit by pitches. Well, what was going on there? Is that the scouting report on you? Is that
No, my
enemies?
scouting report's always been pitch me in, and it started getting so bad that the trainers. I started getting these big old contusions on my left. I mean, I learned how to do it. I mean, I would rather take one in the bicep as opposed to getting, trying to get out of the way, breaking a rib, being out, 6 weeks. So they made me put an elbow pad on, and I'll never forget because the first day I went 0 for 4 with it, and I ain't wearing that anymore. And I got it the next day. And it was just like the arm looked sweet. It was huge, but it was not because the bicep was big. So I ended up wearing it again, and I learned how to use it. Now, the scouting report was, throw me in, run something in on his hands. And if it was too far in, it was just one of those things where I got hit a lot. But it was all I had to do with the scouting report, and I'd rather take one off the bicep and still be able to play instead of having a broken rib. But I'm not going to lie, I figured out how to use that elbow pad pretty good.
I gotta play. I want to throw this up. Tell me if you can see this on your screen. Because this is
absolutely, I can see it.
Okay, because this is a fun play of yours. Out at the plate.
Look at you go.
What went through my mind, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I was just like, jump.
Because look at that.
Right now, my whole bag.
Look at that. I mean, that is a fun freeze frame for baseball. And then I had another one.
That picture in my basement.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a great one. Just improv. And then there's another play at the plate that's even funnier here, which is this is a walk-off run you scored in Oakland.
Push pause real quick because I'm going to tell you what, this is a lesson. If you guys, Trevor, you give lessons or whatever, the main thing, and nobody does it even in the big leagues, and my old man taught me this a long time ago, you never take your eyes off the ball. Ever, ever, ever. And I literally tell all the little league kids that I had, I don't care, but you're on, because you never know what's going to happen. And so that was honestly, and this was a game before, this was the All-Star break game, and we were tied with the Angels. And I want to say this was Rodriguez is in, so it had to be the 9th inning or 10th inning. And so you don't ever, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And honestly, you can see stuff like this in Little League games twice a game.
Oh yeah. So if anyone,
this level,
let's play it.
So there's going to be a replay, but K-Rod on the mound just doesn't catch the ball. I'll go back. Here it is.
He was mad because the ball was probably a strike and the umpire called it a ball.
Oh yeah, that is a nice pitch.
Everyone's pissed off.
Yeah,
Molina throws it back. And he just didn't squeeze it.
Oh, that's good stuff right
free
there.
run.
Chavi. Okay.
For the walk-off. Yeah. And I mean, that A's team, like Trev said, that's a pretty fun squad you had there for a couple years. Is Moneyball your favorite movie or least favorite movie?
Least. I wasn't there for those years. I do remember when I went back and I saw Billy. They were filming like at noon, and I was seeing all the clubhouse guys and everything. And Brad Pitt, they're out at the stadium. I'm like, how big is your head now, Billy?
Oh my gosh.
Not only do you think you did this whole analytic, but you got Brad Pitt playing you.
Yeah,
I've said that too. They should not have done that. They should not have given Billy Brad Pitt playing him because forever.
He's not even around anymore. He's trying to find some soccer. I mean, he's still obviously his name's on the team, but he's doing something with soccer. Hey, Brad Pitt played me, which you know what, good for him. But
when I was there, I only played there for half a season, but they signed me, and I go and spring training. I'm going in to go get some work done, and I see someone sitting on the table. I'm like, that's not a player. And it was Billy, and he just walked in there, and he would just plop down on the training table. He'd get work done. I'm like, hey man, I kind of got a game here in a couple of hours. You mind just?
Plays you can. I don't care if you're starting pitchers there, getting ready to get a rub down, or Brad Pitt played me. I'm gonna go before him.
Exactly, it's how it was. It's how it was there.
I wanted to ask
you're right. I was there for 2.5 years. No, you're right, but I will say that 2006 team, that was the best team I've ever played on, and I still to this day say we should have won. We had the best team out of everybody, and we ended up sweeping Minnesota, and the Tigers and Yankees played all 5 games. We had 5 days off at the Coliseum, and just sat there, taking BP obviously at the Coliseum. I mean, it's just like nobody's in the team. Like, and then Tigers came in and just kicked our butts. We had such a good team, though.
I wanted to ask you about that team because, as you're saying, I mean, it's a great team, but it's also, I mean, that pitching staff has a bunch of video game dudes that like you kind of dream of catching. Like, how do you resist calling that Zito curveball like not every other pitch? How was it catching those guys, or who was your favorite to catch on those teams, or maybe all time?
No, that was the best staff in all. The best guy, I can ask this a lot too. With the best stuff at one point that I've ever caught was Rich Harden, and it was he was throwing 100, and he didn't even know what it was. He called it a changeup, but it was like a slider. It was like a palm ball, but it ended up. I mean, at 90, he had a fork ball as like a knuckleball. He was probably out of 1 year the best stuff I've ever caught. I mean, just like it's hard to catch. I can only imagine how hard it is to hit. So. I mean, that team, you had Zito, Dan Herron, Harden, Joe Blanton, Esteban Loaiza, who's now in jail for drug smuggling or whatever.
Is he really?
Drugs.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it was just like you knew you had a shot to win every night. And it's fun as a player when you go, and I was on a lot of bad teams. So myself being there in that 2016 with those guys, I'm like, hey, we just need to score a couple runs. And, Frank Thomas, Milton Bradley, who was awesome because you just didn't know what was going to happen, who was going to come in. He'd be, hey, guys. And the next day, you wouldn't say a word. And I got the biggest kick out of that. I'm saying myself, we're hitting runs on ourselves.
Yeah.
Because whoever was managing, so we were, Kopsay and I ran the team. We were, hey, go up, who cares? Just swing it. I mean, it was so much fun as a player. I mean, Bobby Crosby, Mark Ellis, Eric Chavez, Jay Payton came over, Nick Swisher, who's another treat. I mean, it was just a fun team. So, but I think we had too many days off in between at the end.
Yeah, that's never good. When you have those layoffs, it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, you want to rest a little bit. Maybe a day is good. But when you start going 3, 4, 5 days, I mean, it's definitely a disadvantage. If you guys, like you said, you swept the Twins, then you had to wait around for the other series to finish. That's never good.
No, I mean, if you're fortunate enough to get to the playoffs, you don't want any time. That's because your adrenaline kicks in, and it doesn't matter how banged up you are, you're going to go out and play because there's nothing more exciting. It took me 10 years to get there, and it was everything and more. But I remember I let off for the A's, and Antana struck me out. And I never let go of my bat. My bat goes flying over the first base dugout. Just in the Metrodome, and but I was shaking, and Trevor will know what I'm talking about. Like that first at bat you have in spring training, where your body's not in baseball shape, and your knees are shaking. That's how I felt in wow. that first at bat in the playoffs. I mean, it was that cool.
That's awesome.
Talked about doing whatever it needs to do to win. As a catcher, you were also speedy on the bases. You basically have the record for most steals by a catcher. You do have it in the modern era. Everyone else from like the 1800 and whatnot. Is that something that you took pride in? Was that just you finding the perfect time to run? Back when you were stealing 20 bags a game, were you a legit speedster in the game, or was it more just being a smart base runner?
No, I was definitely faster. I mean, everybody thinks when you think of a catcher, everybody kind of thinks of Engelberg, the Snickers hanging out of his pocket. And there are certain guys that I'm not the biggest guy. And, you can go with Mike Lieberthal, Brad Osmus, and even today Russell Martin. There's a lot of guys, and I'm just trying to throw out names that are not as big. You don't have to be that big old backstop guy. I could run. I could always run. I played quarterback in high school, and I didn't have an offensive line. And we're playing Compton, Lusinger. I can go on and on. Trevor, you know what I'm talking about. All those big runs. I got my speed from there. But I will say this: it helped me out being a catcher, knowing when to go, knowing even later in my career, whether it be, I'll tell you what, the delay steal. Everybody teaches, hey, do a 2 hops, do 3, because you're not trying to mess with the catcher. Do 3 shuffles. It's such an easy bag. You walk in, you got to have a lot. You can't be scared to get thrown out. But I knew times to go and times not to go, and who was catching, who's quick, and I think a lot of it had to do with being a catcher. It helped me out tremendously.
I like the 3 hop rule because you said you're not trying to fool the catcher.
No.
The catcher can not be fooled. He can throw the ball down to second base. If there's no one there to cover the damn base, you're going to be
exactly.
sick.
And
so
if
you're trying to
to
fool the guy, the shortstop or the second baseman, whoever's covering.
And it's everybody goes, oh, 2 hops, and then no, 3 shuffles. But now when you get to that second one and you try to get that third one, you feel like you're out in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you what, out of however many bags I stole, I guarantee you 80 of them were on a delay steal. And people knew I was going to do it.
You just don't see that anymore. You don't see a delayed steal anymore. That's one of those plays.
And analytics guys probably hate it. And there's a free base. In 2001, and I wasn't sure. Take me back, and maybe it's an easy answer, but I think 2001 was the year that you played a little outfield for the Pirates. Was that injuries? Was there another catcher, or what was going on there? And then now talking to you a little bit, I mean, you're a catcher. Were you like a fish out of water, or what was that?
Well, it was because of my thumb. They tried to give me days off, and so they would put me in the outfield. In the next day would catch. So I never really had a chance to work out. I'll never forget the first day I played. I was in Atlanta, and Quilby Olveras hit a foul ball down the line, and I slid into the wall. Number 1 web jam. It was awesome. Boy, was it downhill from there. It was awful for the rest of the time. I couldn't pay attention. I'd made like 8 errors in 20 games, and it was just awful because I'd be yelling at fans or at the pop, just yelling at people. Because I mean, there's one game I ended up calling the game from the outfield for Keith Osick, who was catching. But yeah, I made a number 1 web gym, and then it was just straight downhill from there.
Yeah, you go from a catcher who's involved in every damn play, like calling the game, to being in the outfield where you could stand out there for an entire game and do absolutely nothing except maybe back up a base.
How did that work? Calling pitches from you. We're
left arm down, like right arm up, change up, kind of something like that.
Oh my god,
that is awesome.
We gotta try to find some video of that.
Is that snake ball? That's the one that got me at least 4 or 5 times. Like coming up ready to throw, and next thing I know, go.
I played outfield a little bit in Texas. They whatever grass they use out there, because they have to use like a different grass. It's so damn hot. That ball snakes like crazy. And I guess probably in the new stadium they won't have that, but I'm totally with you. I'm not like the outfield.
That ball it'll find you. Oh, outfield, okay. Pitcher shag and BP. No. That ball will find you.
Yeah, we saw that this last postseason with Gresham, the guy for the right fielder in Milwaukee. People are like, "Oh, how do you miss that ball?" It's not easy. You're running full speed, and you saw that ball took a hop towards the other way, and he didn't catch it. And if it happens in any other point of the season, whatever. But it happened at that exact moment, and it's tough.
The ability that these big leaguers have is unbelievable. And on TV, as a fan, it looks so easy. From hitting to the ball's coming in 95 and sinking, and then like that hop that we're talking about. It's not that easy.
No.
Jimmy is a catcher at heart. His catching career got stopped before yours, and
When
and a lot
curveballs
of people's does.
became.
Yeah, the curveballs got him. But so I know in his head he can't let this go. What was the discussion for you to call pitches in the outfield? Like, did you just tell the catcher?
They wanted to keep
game?
my bat in keep my bat in lineup.
Well, no. But when you said your, right arm change up, left arm down fastball, what did you tell the catcher you were going to call the pitchers?
I was telling the catcher from left field.
Did you tell them before the game and like, this is my game? I'm still going to.
Hey, dude, I'm going to call the game because I can't stay focused here. I'm too busy yelling at people. It was without a doubt. He goes, all right, go ahead. You know him better than I do.
Who was the catcher?
That's
Keith
awesome.
Osick.
It was probably a nice day off for him. He was like, cool, I'll be mindless back here.
Oh, yeah. He goes, no, you know the team better than I do. I mean, you've been back there. I'm just getting a start. Thanks.
Did the pitcher know they were coming from you?
That way the pressure's not on me.
Did the pitcher know it was coming from you? Did he ever shoot you a look on the mound and just like shake you off in left field? Like, nah, man.
No, he should have, right?
Yeah.
I want to.
It was Kip Wells. He knew too.
We got to look for that game. We got to see if the catcher's looking out there.
It'd be funny if the announcer kept saying like, "Why is he looking at left field?"
That's how it should have been. But now I was just left field, and I sent him to Keith, and he would every pitch. But I was locked in. I don't think I made an error that game.
And another thing I dug up while looking at all your stats and stuff, and I was trying to see what pitcher you had the best numbers off of, and it's a potential Hall of Famer. Do you know who you have the most home runs, best numbers off of?
Well, I know I have. I didn't hit many home runs, but I think I have 3 home runs off of Schilling.
Yeah, your numbers for Schilling are pretty good, considered that he's probably a Hall of Famer skill wise.
You know who I had a hard time with is John Smith. Guys, you don't know. I mean, Trevor, am I right or wrong? Especially when you're in your own division or you get older and older, you know how much their ball cuts, how much it sinks, how as a hitter if you have say over 10 at bats against them. But the guys that you have 5 or those are the guys that had a tough time. I loved facing Maddox, Johnson. You knew they're going to be around the plate, number one, and you knew you're going to get some. Don't miss that one pitch that you get to hit because then you're done.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, you always have your guys that you crush. You always have your guys that you're not going to do well against. I didn't mind like the haven't seen him before thing, but there were just some guys I saw the ball against, and there were some guys who I faced a ton, and I never saw the ball against. Scherzer was one. We always kind of just let that happen because he's Max Scherzer and he's an excellent pitcher.
Without a doubt,
I'm okay with that. But my guy was Ubaldo Jimenez, and I just couldn't hit him.
Okay, so. Yeah, but there's just certain guys.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. There was one guy. This is actually a funny story. It's my last year playing in 2010. We're in Anaheim, and I'm up to bat, and it's like maybe like my second or third bat, and this guy comes in. I still couldn't tell you the guy's name. Okay, down 0-1, look up, and I'm looking on the scoreboard. I'm 0 for 25 against this guy. I don't even know who he is. It's Hector or something. And so I'm like, oh. Like, I had to take a step back out of the box. Honestly, it was all I know is his cousin used to play pitch for the Blue Jays and was really nasty for a year. And that's Escobar maybe or Hector. I don't even know who he is. I'm 0 for 25, and I swear to you, I hit a ball right off his toe to the second baseman. It gets me out. So I'm like 0 for 26.
We'll have to look that up.
Unbelievable. So there's guys you have success with, guys who just can't get a hit.
Soria?
That's crazy.
Or no, it's an Angels guy. It's Fuentes.
It was an Angels guy at the time. I don't even know where I faced him that many times at.
Could have been Irvin Santana?
No. I know I didn't hit him well either, but it was look in the bullpen. He came out of the bullpen.
Do you have catchers? If you throw on a game, are there catchers that you love? Like you just love to watch them play? I feel like there's an obvious answer to that, but at the same time, you always hear like, oh, I love to watch this guy pitch or love to watch Andrelton Simmons play shortstop. Are there a couple dudes that if you turn on a Wednesday night game and they're behind the plate, you're like, yes? Or is it guys you have relationships with?
No, I like watching baseball. I enjoy watching baseball. one thing that I always did though as a catcher is I'd always watch the other catcher, whoever it might have been. And this is something once again to tell younger kids is everybody's different. And when a certain coach will sit here and say, hey, do it this way. Well, okay, and then you change. Well, if you're having success at doing it your way, then you continue to do it. And when it gets to the point to where you're not having that success anymore, then you don't do it anymore. I watched everybody, and I would try to take something out of someone's game. And it might or might not work for what I did behind the plate. But if I saw something that I liked, I would totally try to go do it. And that's not me. But
does one come to mind per chance?
A catcher. What's that?
Does one come to mind? I mean, it doesn't have
Osmus,
to.
Lieberthal. I mean, even Piazza in certain areas. Whether it be catch and footwork. Ivan Rodriguez. I can go on and on and on. I would watch every catcher that I ever played against, even whoever was backing me up or whatever. and try it. If you think you know everything in this game, you're not going to be in it long because it's never going to happen. There's never going to be a person that knows everything about this game. It's and you just got to try new things. So for a kid that is wants to be a catcher, watch everybody. Just watch. But I love baseball. So I watch anything.
Who's the best? Who's the best catch and throw guy you ever saw? Because I feel like credit for hitting ability, but I want to know who the best catch and throw guy is that you ever saw.
Catch and throw guy. Now, Salvador Perez, without it. I've never seen a big man that way throughout my whole entire baseball career be able to put the ball on it. I mean, this guy's 6'3", 270, and he's very athletic back there. I've never seen anybody with an arm like that just can put the ball where he wants to at any given time. I mean, there's a lot of other guys. Now, catching the ball, Sal wouldn't even be close to my top 100. But catch and throw guys, unbelievable. So there's a lot of guys with unbelievable arms. And I mean, at the end of the day, though, yes, now it's getting better because you can go and hit 240. And if you know how to call a game, then you'll be around in the big leagues if you stay healthy for a while. But kind of back when I play, you better hit 280 or higher.
Yeah, I think that's really important what you just said there about catch and throw guys is you can have the quickest release, you can have the strongest arm, but if you're not putting the ball where it needs to be put, guys are going to steal bases on you. And the guys that threw out the most guys that I played with, the guys that always threw guys out, they would just put the ball in the bag. And you didn't have to go up the line. You didn't have to reach up for it, bring your tag down. Those guys that were accurate with the ball, those are the guys that throw people out. So yeah, Sal, he was one of those guys. He loved to throw, or still loves to throw, and he is accurate. And that's just that's how you get those percentages.
Being accurate is unbelievable. I mean, he was or is that good. And I'll be honest with you, for a guy like Sal, this is probably a good break for him because he just came off of Tommy John, so he's going to have that other 2 months to get prepared. But I've never seen anything like it, especially when he was rookie, first 2-3 years, whatever. It was just because he's huge.
He's thrown me out a few times. I'm not a stolen base guy though.
I found
I don't know how much you should have been stealing.
It was Hector Carrasco. That's the guy you're talking about. He only struck
Hector
you out.
Carrasco. I was close.
He only struck you out twice. But
I was over 25, wasn't I?
0 for 20. Yeah. Oh, for 15.
Carrasco.
0 for 15. I had
No. There's more.
I had another question. Is according to all my research, you never played a single game at AAA. You went straight from AA to being the opening day starting catcher. So was that a surprise, or did you understand? I know you were a first round pick and you're flying through, but that spring training, do you know? Hey, they're having me pegged to be the starter? Because, I mean, realistically, AAA comes after AA, but you skipped it.
I just went out and played. Then I remember it was funny because I kind of had an idea, I guess, going in because they brought Lance Parrish into camp. And he was going to try to back me up, be the tutor or whatever. But Keith Osick ended up beating him out. So I kind of had an idea if I go out and have a good spring that I might. But I just went out and played. and let everything else. I think especially when you're young, if you start worrying about things like that, you're going to be thinking about it when you're hitting. You're going to be thinking about it when you're playing, like running bases, whatever it may be. So I honestly just went out and played. And I think AAA now is more, you're better in up and down guys. AA is where your prospects are going to be at. I mean, both are good baseball. And Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong, but your 6-year free agents, whatever, they're going to be at AAA. But you're the guys you draft, the guys that have a chance are going to be at AA. And so, I mean, I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. I think the Slot and LeBoyer weren't there anymore. And let's see what he can do.
Yeah, I would say that at AA you have your prospects. They're already there. They bleed into AAA a little bit, but like you said, usually AAA is kind of the fringe guys, a little bit older guys who are up and down. You are going to get some prospects in that league, but if you're looking for straight, young, talented baseball players, AA is probably the league that has the most of them. So, yeah, the baseball there is, I would say, at times it's better than AAA, but AAA is more consistent because you have guys that have been there and they're just more consistent with the routine. They have more experience. So then that's what the big leagues is. It's the best players who are consistent. You still have that in AAA. You have the talent, but when you get to the big leagues, it's all about talent and being consistent with that talent. You don't have the guys that fluctuate a ton. That's the biggest separator from the big leagues to the minor leagues is that consistency factor.
Man,
very true.
I could. You're a baseball guy through and through. I could ask you questions all day, and I won't torment you with that. But I'll leave my final question as an open door for you. Do you have a good either all-star game story, fight with an umpire behind you behind the dish, or maybe like a brawl story that you'd like to share? Because I know within those 3 topics you got to have something good.
Jeez.
I've been trying to find your brawls on the internet, and I cannot find them.
They're impossible. The Marlins one is impossible to find.
When you went after Lackey, can't find that video.
Yeah, I had a hard. I'll give you a funny story. But I had a hard time with people yelling at me, and
me too.
I could take a lot of stuff. But Joe Kennedy, he was pitching for the Rockies, and this is very similar with John Lackey. And I respect John Lackey, but he shouldn't have yelled at me. The bases were loaded, and it was a 2-1 count. I got free ribbies out there with 1 out, and say, get that thing out. And I lost it. But Joe Kennedy, very, very similar. He hit me, and I'm walking halfway down first base, and he goes, "Yeah, bye," about my elbow pad. Boom, right? We got in a fight. The next year, he gets traded to Oakland, and God bless his soul, he passed away. But that's another sad story. So, but you can just tell how uncomfortable he was walking into the Oakland, clubhouse when he got traded at the deadline. I went up and I'm like, "Hey, Joe, Jason, we got in a fight last year." I just kind of broke the ice. He was so much better. But what a good dude. And, he ended up passing away. But that's just off the top of my head story.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted.
Oh.
We share one thing. We led the league, both of you and I, 1 year in a specific category. And I didn't lead the league in a lot of categories, okay? And this one is actually not a good category. You led the league and grounded into double plays in 2005. And I also led the league and grounded into double plays. Not sure.
Yeah, but you know what? That's pretty cool 13. Stuff. Because listen, at the end of the day, you're making the game quicker. You can get that Bud Light a lot quicker.
Yeah. I always tell people,
2 outs, there you go.
You got to hit the ball hard to hit in a double plays. Okay, that's what I tell.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Well, congratulations. We got to make some type of trophy.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, thank you for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure, and anytime.
Do you have anything you want to plug?
No, you know what? The only thing I'm going to plug is, guys, just stay safe. Everybody be safe out there and stay at home and just let this whole thing take. That's the only thing I can say. But I mean, that's kind of just common sense. But be good, stay safe.
Cool. Love it.
You're welcome on anytime.
Yeah, man. Seriously.
Guys, be good. It's a pleasure.
Thanks.
All right, Jace.
All right. As you guys heard, that was Jason Kendall, who sat down. I think the interview is around an hour. There's probably half hour of technical difficulties beforehand that he would patiently sat through and figured out so we could all hear each other without an echo and all that. I think Jake, myself, and Trevor post game all were like, we have so many more questions. Well, that was a fun one. That is a baseball man right there.
There was a period of time where I wanted to get the phrase like baseball guy going because football guy is a thing. And Jason Kendall would be my figurehead. That was awesome. He will be back on the podcast. He had a chance to plug his own podcast and he didn't. So like, go check that out.
It's called Wrestling
awesome,
with
and
Sports.
He will be back.
It's called Wrestling with Sports.
Wrestling
and
with Sports.
Plouffe is going on now. Yeah. Just to recap a little bit, the flower story was pretty funny that he shared that.
Unreal.
And I think calling pitches from left field. I told Jake after this we recorded, like, thank you so much for doing the follow-up on that, Jake, because I needed to know if when he told the catcher, hey, I'm going to call from left field, if that catcher put up a fight, because it wasn't an ask. It wasn't a, hey, would you like me to call from left field? It was a, hey, I'm calling the pitches from left field.
And it's just,
dude, he can't even see the break. Like, he doesn't have like a good sense of,
doesn't have a good angle. And it just shows how like entrenched he was in baseball it's tough to almost get into the modern day mindset of, analytics and calling pitches and stuff like that he was so well respected. And hey, maybe there is another side to the story that wouldn't necessarily shock me, but I don't think there is. Like, I just think it was the way he depicted it was like the other catcher was like, yeah, man, you know what's going on.
That was fantastic. So
Great.
Go check out his podcast. I would say tweet at him, but I'm sure he doesn't give a fuck if you tweet at him or not.
He doesn't care.
And hopefully we'll catch up with him in the future because that was great. Thank you guys for hanging out with us and listening. And excuse me while I slowly find the outro music. Here we go. We will see you in the middle of the week. Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. Depends if there's news or not. Thanks.